It's Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. Let's start the show with Lewis Tennant. Here we go. Guests and interviews that you're looking for with creators, innovators, and so much more. For all episodes and further info, verbalhighs.com is the place to go.
All right, welcome to week 3 of Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs, a weekly podcast broadcast from a kitchen bench in Kingsland, Auckland, New Zealand, Aotearoa, hosted by myself, Lewis Tennant. I've worked out my creative process with these intros. I record one first that's full of like lots of ums and ahs and that doesn't really connect, that I then try and edit for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I go, shit, I wouldn't want to listen to this, and then I come and do the second one that generally works. Okay, so hi. So this week, I mentioned Aotearoa, I mentioned New Zealand. I specifically make note of that because we have had an extraordinarily long term or period of government in New Zealand where we have had the same leader, Mr. John Mikee. So if you're not from New Zealand, you may not be aware. If you are from New Zealand and you're not aware, that's extraordinarily odd. But if you're not from New Zealand, you may not be aware that he resigned for apparently no particular reason yesterday. And apparently very well covered up, apparently without scandal. They will wait and see. He just kind of stopped. And so what happened was I generally followed it first through social media. Then I read a few articles and kind of breaking news stories and opinion pieces and so on. But, you know, the social media thing really reconfirmed for me that I live in that proverbial bubble they talk about with information and, perceived opinions and stances on things. In that, like we said, I have a fairly left-leaning social media crew. What made me uneasy about that commentary is something that's kind of made me uneasy about commentary to do with John Mikee the whole time he's been in power, and that there seems to be quite a strong voice and quite a large number of people behind this voice that insist he is some kind of sort of evil, malevolent dictator, which I've never really bought into. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of the man by any means. I'll say that I've never voted National, but I think it's a bridge too far to sort of suggest he's sort of some kind of Gargamel, Mr. Burns-esque evil doer. I think he's more, and this relates to him resigning and why I'm kind of going on this riff of talking about this. I think he's more just a sort of a wealthy opportunist who's ticked something that he acknowledged that he wanted to do as a child off his bucket list. That actually sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it, in terms of the US? I'm doing this now. I am Prime Minister. Yay! And it kind of felt like that with his leaving as well, you know, without analysing what he kind of did or didn't do. What fascinates me more is that he's just kind of left because it's a good time for John Mikee to leave. Never mind National, his party. Never mind New Zealand. John Mikee's ready to go. Went a little bit longer than he wanted it to. Probably knows that his next term, a fourth term in government, might be the most difficult. So as the guy used to trade in, futures and markets and knowing what's going to happen next, he's outie, man. Off to Hawaii. Off to get a few more miles on the open road in the Beamer. He came, he saw, didn't really conquer, but he got out for John Mikee. So not evil. I don't think he's evil, but I don't think certainly a man of the people. And I think that'll reflect, I think, this is all opinion. I think that'll reflect in how we see him over the coming years. Of course, he was in power so long that there will be a media presence of him, but I don't think he will, in any meaningful way, stay engaged with agitating for change, politics, commentary, analysis, because in that regard, he's not really a politician. He's a business guy who chalked up another wish on his list. And now he's gone. And one last thing I'll say about that is, think about your Roosevelts, whoever. What was his New Deal? Even his kind of... People talk about all the mess he's left behind. Well, you can say that about any exiting politician or political party generally in a democracy. You can look at the good and the bad. I'm more interested in what he did try and do, which again to me is or was pretty much a vanity project. I mean, changing the flag. Didn't even pull it off, but that's it. That was the intended legacy for 8 years for him, as far as he saw it. Yep, I'm the guy that changed that thing flying everywhere around New Zealand. I'll stop there. So there you go. But then again, he doesn't stop there. It could be interesting to see what comes out. Maybe he's been putting his where he shouldn't, and that'll all come out in the coming weeks. And everything I assumed about him buggering off because he feels like it will be completely wrong, and then there might be a sex tape. Ugh. Imagine that. Hey, anyway, so this week's guest, we do actually talk politics, funnily enough, with this week's guest, even though it was recorded weeks ago, is Mr. Mikee Tucker. He is the founder and still runner and owner of Loop Recordings. If you don't know about them, they have a pretty much 20-year history now, I'd say, or at very least 15-year history, releasing independent music in New Zealand, responsible for launching the careers of a number of now very well-known local acts. We often have a narrative in New Zealand of talking about Flying Nun as this hugely successful indie, which they were and they are, but perhaps Mike's label, Loop, is too recent in proceedings to be recognised like that. But my 2 cents is, to have survived all that time and to still be releasing new music and new artists is no mean feat. We talk about politics because Mikee ran the political campaign for Kim.com's Internet Mana Party. So I was interested in knowing what working so close to a figure like Kim.com was like. To be honest, I probably could have pressed him further on this, but probably out of respect for what Mikee can and can't say, especially in such a small country as ours, I only took him so far. But he did say some frank and honest stuff about working with a guy like that, and I'm sure you can deduce based on what you know of Kim.com's kind of personality and so on, what sort of difficulties and scenarios and so on that Mikee may have faced. Now, before I leave you with myself and Mikee, I've had some great feedback, but a lot of it's coming privately from people I know, and that's fantastic. But even the people I do know, whether I do or I don't know you, I'd love for this to get some legs. So if I can ask you one favour for this free service I'm providing, it's not really the way I look at it all, but if I could ask you one favour as listeners, if you are enjoying it and so on, subscribe to iTunes, please, and rate the podcast. And even if you keep using the portal I've built, which is the website to download the episodes and stuff, and you don't actually use the iTunes so much, if you could just subscribe to get me the subscriptions to acknowledge that the podcast, is being listened to, that'd be great. And I think, as I say, you can rate it, you can leave a comment if you're feeling that adventurous. But in the same thing, social media as well. Please engage. There's a little love heart on the pages for each podcast. If you want to give it a little, what would that be? And so on. You know the deal. So verbalhighs.com, you can follow me at Verbal Highs on Twitter or Verbal Highs Podcast on Facebook. All right, enough said. Here he is, Mr. Mikee Tucker. He's a little poppy. That was my fault on the recording. Sorry about that. So prepare a bit of that. He wanted to play a tune at the end, and that tune is from Loop, funnily enough. It's Electric Wire Hustle, and it's called I Light a Candle, but it's only in wee tiny mono files. So if you like what you hear, go out and buy the whole album in glistening stereo.
This is Dr. Janet's Verbal Highs.
Yeah, so we chat. Last guy talked about an hour and 20. I don't know, you look like you're quite busy. We'll probably do at least an hour. Does that sound fine?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I've got to take that van back and then go shopping for the family. But
what's the van for? What was on last night?
We drove Anna Coddington and her superstar band down to Tauranga.
For, a gig, obviously.
Yeah, a gig at a place called Rising Tide.
But why just one gig, not a tour?
No, it's part of a tour. So we was Tuning Fork on Friday, and Tauranga last night.
You know someone's busy when they ring up and say they're going to be late, and they go, I'll either be there at 30 past or 40 past. So that's someone whose life's in 10-minute increments.
Have we started?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah. I'll introduce you. I don't really do research for these, but I thought I'd better have a proper intro. So this is...
Oh, boom.
This is Mikey Tucker, who has... You can correct any or all of these at the end if some of the details are wrong. In no particular order. Who's managed Skinny Puppy. Worked with and been invested in by one of the fellows from Earth, Wind and Fire. Founded Loop magazine and record label. Now more kind of all-round music company. Co-founded Fly My Pretties with Barnaby Ware. Does not play the tambourine for said band. Works for TEDx Auckland on those chats with people like myself. Who knows? I might do a TEDx talk one day.
Bring it.
Has worked with One Direction.
Yeah.
Producer for Think Incorporated, who recently brought over Steve the Woz. Do they call him the Woz?
Actually, this is great. Yeah, you can be the first in the world. I can say who we're bringing next year.
Who? Oh, hang on, wait. Wait, there's still 3 pages. Worked famously and infamously with Mr. .com. That's Kim, if you're confusing the .coms. As campaign director for the internet, then became the Internet Mana Party, and also on a site called Baboom, who you bring over next year. Oh, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to whoever listens to this.
Yeah, so who are you bringing over next year?
I'm just running. I should have a list. But who can I say and who can't? Okay, there's 3 I can't. Malcolm Gladwell.
Yep.
Can't say that one. Dr. Jason Silver. I don't know.
Who's Dr. Jason Silver?
He's like, we bring over a few doctors. So we brought over Dr. Ben Goldacre, who wrote Bad...
Doctors, dime a dozen.
Yeah, he wrote Bad Science and Bad Pharma. I don't know if you know those 2 books where he debunks... Yeah, so Russell Brown was the MC for that one. It was cool.
Hang on, that one. I thought you said people who are coming over.
Oh, yeah, so we did Wozniak this year, but also Dr. Ben Goldacre. So Dr. Jason Silver, a guy called Shu Tescat, who's the Aztec boy that's suing the American government for crimes to the Mother Earth / environment. And he's an interesting cat. He's set up a Facebook group called Guardians of the Earth, which has got hundreds of thousands of followers already. And he's a young Aztec kid who's never cut his hair or anything, and is just... He's actually literally going viral and attracting not children, but attracting a younger demographic to his cause. He's awesome. I'm just actually going to bring up a list of who else we're bringing, but I know I can tell you off the top of my head also Julian Assange. So we're not literally bringing him here.
I thought he was still...
he is. Oh. He's locked in the Ecuadorian embassy.
I hope... that could actually be good for my listenership if someone picks up on that.
If the NRA
break him out of the...
Well, the dark web at the moment is saying that he's dead and that someone's taken over his Twitter handle. I don't believe that, but it's pretty interesting how 3 people from WikiLeaks have died in 6 months as soon as they start disrupting Clinton's side of the election. Eh?
I bet he's sick of bananas.
Yeah, so we're streaming him in, so they'll be in February, and we'll do probably the catapult.
Oh, okay, a stream. I was wondering what you knew that I didn't know about what the US government's plans were.
I know they want to kill him, literally. They've cut off his internet at the Ecuadorian embassy. I bet you they'll put it back on what day is the election? The 8th. So back on the 9th of November, we'll have internet again. But
freedom of speech.
Yeah, we're just doing that in Capitol Cinema, Auckland, and probably the Paramount with good old Steve-O down at Paramount.
Is this your... Because I know you work in different capacities. Is this like your kind of company and your original idea and so on, or are you working for a company to help them bring over these people?
Yeah, that's it. So Rian Sheehan, one of our most awesome artists.
One of the OGs?
Yeah, Ambient Electronica. He went to Sydney Opera House to see Neil deGrasse Tyson talk, which is one of the guys that they brought over.
Yeah.
I wish we'd gotten board before.
Yeah.
And he met Susie and Desh who run it, and it was just like, they were like, we need to bring all these people to New Zealand. And Rian's like, I know. And they're like, do you know anybody? And Rian's like, I do. And boom. So
that's what you're in. You are in a career and a life of these little connections.
Yeah, no, it's good. So Rian recommended me. We had a few Skypes. Next minute, we've got a 7-year agreement with Think Inc. to just produce all their New Zealand content.
Oh, wow. So it's like the TEDx thing, because I thought I recognised the brand. So it's like, that's right, it is. It's an already known brand, and you are like the New Zealand, I wouldn't say franchise, but you're the one bringing people over.
NZ producer, yeah. And
wow.
that's only New Zealand and Australia at the moment. So it's an Australian couple, very fresh. They just won Telstra Business of the Year in Aussie 2 weeks ago.
So that sounds small enough that you probably picked up Steve from the airport.
Yeah, I did. Oh, you knew that, eh?
No,
Oh,
not
no,
at all. I wouldn't bait you for something I already knew. Well, so was that kind of...
It was fun.
That's kind of a big deal.
Me and Steve played crosswords in the traffic jam. It was fucking cool. So yes, I picked up Woz and his wife from the second wife, a third wife, I think third, from the airport. And interesting chat. Asked if there's any secrets to the Mac that, are there any, nest eggs in the Mac? Come on, tell me, Steve.
You heard about the emoticon thing? That's their biggest kind of announcement on the new machine, is it's got a custom emoticon bar.
Yeah, the bar thing that goes there, yeah.
And no USB.
Oh, God. Well, yeah, it's really hard for us in the music industry because we still use CDs to rip and burn, and we still make masters. We'll get onto Fly My Pretties later because I want to talk about that. But, we just pressed Fly My Pretties and it came back on Friday. We pressed a whopping 1,000 units.
It's amazing. It's like
Fly My Pretties 3, we pressed 30,000.
Wow. And what's the gap in those two? 6 years? I was thinking about this today, chatting to you about stuff like what an industry of kind of unexpected and some expected, but certainly rapid change. And I was thinking of the CD thing, I put in a DVD the other day, and I remember when. Is that what you're pointing at? Yeah, I remember when kind of I caught on to burning, when everyone could burn at home, like probably early 2000s. And it was like, wow, this is such a brave new world. And I remember one of those, I don't know if they had them in New Zealand, I was in Australia, but there were these coin-operated CD burners. So it's basically like, if you didn't have a CD burner or a computer at home, you could basically, what people would have been doing was pirating music, let's face it, or whatever. But you go to these machines. And I thought, what a great investment that would be. And then one came up on sale, and I'm so glad that I was my failed entrepreneurial spirit of ending up with 6 of those in the garage.
Did you?
No, I'm saying that it was a sort of like, it was like, technology is going to stop here. It's like, no. Because I think about going back to, when we met, so I was thinking that's nearly 20 years, man.
Yeah.
97. And speaking of all of that, I was in broadcast radio. You had a magazine. Just sit back for the next 20 years and wait for the checks to come in, right, with those 2 jobs?
Yeah. But
where did that start? So I remember I think you were dabbling or finishing in hairdressing. You had Wellington Styles.
Well, that's where Leon Dale's dad comes in, Bruce.
Really?
Who just passed away, yeah. So
rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Love to Leon.
Yeah, totally.
Because you came up, I remember you came up
I was taking lots of drugs and photos and washing lots of hair and cutting lots of hair at Grace. With an awesome crew of people.
And were you a trained hairdresser?
No. I was a trained madman. I was a trained I won't actually say that on the air, but I was a trained nothing really. But I had this little idea.
So Bryce, bless his soul, hired a completely...
Oh, no, Bryce wasn't the boss then.
Oh, okay.
No.
So what did you have? You must have had to audition or something. You can't just come in with no...
You can, because the bottom of the chain at the hair salon just sweeps the floors.
So you were just doing washes
I was
and
an apprentice.
colours.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I was sweeping floors and getting the coffee from Havana.
Fancy pants salon. I wouldn't have liked to go in and drop $200 on a, arguably attention deficit disorder Mikee, 18-year-old.
No. I was just there to wash your hair and pass you to the senior. I was a junior, sweeping floors, blah, blah, blah.
I think something I wrote on the back wall of that office is probably still there if they haven't painted over
What's
that.
fucking hilarious is so then the guy David who owned Sebastian Hair Products, he was invested in it, and it was a great crew of people that had all just come back from London and worked at Tony and Guy and all these fancy pants places in London, and the scene was one of my favourite scenes in the history of pop culture because you had Face Magazine and ID Magazine and...
Yeah, there were a lot of mags around reflecting what was kind of starting to happen in
New Zealand too. Yeah, I mean, there was pavement
we were on
here.
that cusp of that kind of guess, dance music thing, really, eh?
Yeah, and I idolised Face Magazine and Rebirth of Cool 5 and good photography like Richard Avedon and the greats and stuff. So anyway, I set up a light, like a Bowen light with flash and everything, and a kit out the back in the alleyway behind Grace. And just if the odd person came through that looked really dope, I'd just be like, "Do you want to take a photo?" And just take some photos and do a bit of ad hoc modelling stuff.
But you must have been able to take photos, because you can't take whack photos and then people keep saying, "Yeah." Sure.
Oh no, my dad's a photographer, so I was trained really well, and I topped New Zealand, and I got 100% in bursary photography and 7th form.
Wow. Okay.
So I was not being throw modesty out the door. I was a really good photographer.
Oh,
so,
you got to see.
So that's how I got my foot in the door at Wellington Style. So that's just I got a bit over hairdressing, and a job came up to Bep and on Wellington Style. So that was.
And how old were you? You about my age?
I think I was 19 or 19.
So you're a bit younger. How old are you?
I'm 39.
I'm 39 too. Yeah, right. So we're both, for what pretty freaking young. And I thought about that. Like, you must. And I was thinking about that, like, throughout what you've done over the years, because as I say, we're probably back then both, a reasonable thing to say, we're known for being reasonably energetic folk, the two of us. And for me, when I did a bit of sales for Active, I think it kind of didn't work for me, and possibly coming across a little flaky. So you must have the opposite effect, where you know how to close a deal.
Yeah, no, I just got people super excited. So I went out to. I combined my photography skills with my selling skills. So I'd go to a restaurant like Brava or La Luna or Tattoo or I don't know, or whatever, just a hair salon like Boy or Willis York, and get them really excited about the potential of taking this amazing photo with this amazing catchline, and it'll be in print and it'll be real cheap because I'll just take the photo for free. And so that worked really well as a hyperactive photographic madman / sales rep. And I sold a lot of ads, and Wellington Styles did really well. Our mission was to take down, at the time, the Evening Post hadn't merged with the Dominion Post yet, so the Evening Posts had an insert called Flair.
How's a free fashion lifestyle mag going to take over a daily newspaper?
There was an insert called Flair.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Viva or whatever.
Yeah, it was the Evening Post equivalent of Flair, of Viva, yeah.
Yeah.
And we did. We took a lot of their clients, and then eventually onto newsprint. We got a couple of brands like Zambezi and World, and it was all good. And Leon's dad was like really instrumental in just believing in my mad energy and giving me the reins. And then eventually, staff shifted around. I became I ran the whole thing, so became editor / photographer / sales rep.
But hang on, so aside from being Leon's dad, what's the connection to the industry? And
he ran Capital Community newspapers in Johnsonville, of which Wellington Styles was one of the 10 newspapers like Cappy Mana and all that came out of it.
Who's the overseeing company? Like, not Gordon and Gotch.
It was Wilson and Horton.
Wilson and Horton, that's right. I knew it was something and something.
And then they sued me, and so like I went.
And then they sued me. He drops in.
Yeah. So I went to buy. I said, "Can I buy Wellington Styles off you?" Because they were 1-8 down. They said yes, and I kept on rolling. This is how Loop was born. So I kept on rolling, selling ads for Wellington Styles, and got to the point where the deal was taking a while, but the deal was definitely going to go through on good faith and communications, and we'd agreed on a price that I was going to buy it off them at the young old age of 21, and boom. I decided to take it up to this place in Warkworth up in Auckland because I was looking for a good cheap print deal, right? I've been printing it at a Wilson and Horton pressing plant called Wanganui Newspapers and driving up there to print past it every month, and found a place that was like, oh my God, way cheaper.
Back when there was plates and all that kind of business, it was really expensive printing,
And we got to close the deal, and then they added in at the last minute this clause that I must print it at a Wilson and Horton owned plant. And I'd already printed it at a non-Wilson and Horton owned plant. So
that's your big investment for that issue.
Oh, and I don't have any money. The money I have is the ads to come in to pay for it after the magazines come out.
Yeah.
So I'm left with this $18,000 print bill. They demand I pulp the 20,000 copies I've made up at Warkworth. So I've got one copy in my storage unit because I kept one. So I was up shit creek without a paddle. I was like, so they've cancelled the deal. They came into my office like ninjas, taking the keys and confiscating everything.
So they pulped basically a young kid's first attempt at business out of kind of being a print mafia.
Because it was
Couldn't they have let you just do one and then realise your mistake?
It's like they It's a lost leader. So even if say 12 of those cable community newspapers, there were 12 of them. Say 6 of them, well, I think it was about 7 of them, run at a loss.
Yeah.
On their budget, they're not because they're printing at a Wilson and Horton owned pressing plant,
Right.
a printing plant.
I'd imagine things. Yeah.
So it was a lost leader. So I learned about lost leaders, and it was a bad mistake. But I was about to go completely bankrupt at the age of 21.
Oh man.
So this is how, and then I met Mark Kuby, and he's like, I'm a bit sick of Radioactive, and I'm like, yeah. To cut a long story short, I was just. It's how Loop was born. I was like, I can go and tell all these advertisers who are friends now, like Boycott, Street Bistro and Zambezi and these cool brands who had all advertised in the very first Mikey edition. It had heaps of ads in it.
Yeah.
I went and told them all this story. I'm like, I remember sitting down with Mike
Good
Egan.
on you, man.
Mike Egan, who is one of the dons of the mafia down there, like not the mafia, like the restaurant mafia.
Yeah, yeah.
He does
Kind of the Wellington Mafia.
Yeah, so there was a good crew of people between Brasserie Flip and One Red Dog and Boycott and all those cool restaurants. And he's like, "Fuck, I feel really sorry for you. We'll come back in." And here's the first. Like, he's like, "We'll take some ads. We'll run the same ad." And then it became a domino effect, and everyone said, "All right, we'll do it." And I didn't have a name, but my mission is to go to everyone that was about to advertise in it and say, "Would you like to advertise in a new thing?"
That'll be cooler.
Yeah, I don't have a name yet. And then we're getting really close to the wire. I've got to get it out to avoid bankruptcy. And I'm like, just flicking through. This is how the name Loop was born. I was living with the guy that owned, I was living in George from Tattoo's house.
Yeah, yeah.
but with the guy that ran the White House restaurant, a fucking dope restaurant. And I borrowed his dictionary, and I was just sitting on his fancy couch in the front room in Newtown, flicking through, and it got to the L's, and then the word loop just literally jumped out of the page at me. I'm like, that's everything.
That is. In the loop, you went down the electronic music route, so there's the loop of the music.
Oh, yeah, and the Loop Gig Guide. Oh, the name was, it's an awesome name. So nothing else was really called Loop at this stage. So we called it Loop.
You know what I really like about this story so far? Is it's not that long ago, really, in the scheme of things, but we're dealing with a printing mafia and you're using a dictionary to find a word. So that shows you how much technology's changed,
So when was that? So that was 2000. Yeah, or 99.
Landline next to you, dictionary in hand.
Faxing all the contracts back and forth for the new, whatever it was going to be called.
I had an email address for that sales job at Active. I don't actually know if I even knew how to... I don't know how we accessed it.
It was fucking satisfying to give the finger to Wilson and Horton.
Totally.
So basically, Loop came out free.
It sounds so cheesy, but it's a David and Goliath kind of a story that you kind of came out of that.
Yeah, it's a bit shit what they did, really. I mean, I tried to salvage the deal in the sense that, like, well, I'll print the next one there. And they were really just didn't give a toss. And I was like, well... Yeah, so I was pretty motivated by
So then Loop launches...
it's free.
For those who don't know Mark Kuby's history before Kim Hill, which he's just finished producing, and also before managing Radioactive, which is the kind of main period I was there, is that he has actually had a really solid history before our time, owing to age differences, in quality kind of, I guess, undergroundy kind of journalism, right? So
yeah, well, he had a magazine.
I'm guessing that's why you approached it. There was a great mag called Scope when I was at Wellington High School.
That was it.
That was really kind of edgy, and I'd have kind of crazy images. Now I think about it, some of the stuff in it, like this is not a great comparison, but in terms of some of the imagery and stuff, for me as like a 14, 15-year-old kid pre-internet and stuff, it had a kind of Vice magazine-y kind of vibe, like it had real edgy photography and blah, 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 blah.
It was Auckland's version of Planet magazine.
Oh, was Scope Auckland? So
no, Scope was Wellington with Jim.
With
Jim from Radioactive. What's Jim's surname?
Scott.
Jim Scott. It was right. Jim Scott and Mark.
So you guys get together, Mark leaves Active. When does the decision come? Because for people who don't know, the CD and... Because it had a CD on the cover. So the CD and magazine thing, every issue was pretty uncommon then. Was that a conscious decision early on, or were there a few without those? I can't remember. Wasn't there some free editions first within a CD and then you started charging?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I followed the template of free around town or around New Zealand. But the difference about the freeness of it at that stage, which Remixing copied, they copied everything we did actually, good on you Tim, was it was glossy and free instead of newsprint and free. Everything in the industry then was newsprint and free.
But it had journalism in it, unlike some other things you mentioned. So.
Yeah. And it was, well, Mark Kuby's a fucking awesome writer.
I remember he wrote an article on nanotechnology in Loop, And then about 6 years later, I start reading about nanotechnology everywhere, and I remember Mark writing about that.
Yeah,
he's always been a very kind of futurist in that way, a lot of ways.
Yeah, so anyway, eight issues were free, and then we were like, well, we've got to make some money out of this. We've got to follow in Pavement's footsteps and put it on the newsstands for $8.95 or whatever. And how do we make it different? There's some awesome music coming out of COG and COG Transmissions in Auckland and around Wellington from the likes of, the early Fat Freddy's and Ebb and all that.
Yeah.
And so we put a free CD on the first one.
Probably would have been the first public release of a Fat Freddy's tune, because we had some playing on Active, but I don't think that any had come out anywhere else. It was
the first public release of so many bands. Yeah, Trinity, Cuffy and Leon. Yeah, heaps. The list goes on and on. And it kind of became addictive. I was like, we should just do a CD every issue. It was just meant to be for the first issue, but it got quite good rap. Yeah. And it was just considered a free CD on top of a magazine cover. So the price wasn't increased because of the CDs.
And they endure. You still see them at people's houses and people's collections.
Yeah.
I've ripped all of mine to hold on to them.
Yeah, they're on SoundCloud. I've put them all up. But not all, actually. There's a couple I haven't. But yeah, to cut a long story short, it worked well. And then we added a CD-ROM element and had code through the magazine, which then meant if you read a story on movies, you'd see this little symbol, like an email symbol or a movie symbol, and that symbol would then mean on the CD-ROM was a movie or extended copy to link you to the internet. So it connected the magazine through a CD-ROM to the internet. Which
again, at the time, I distinctly remember, did seem really pioneering and kind of
it was a world first. Telstra in Australia came to us for advice on how to do that with their magazine for Telstra's, like, I don't know, something at the time. So, it was cool. So, but it feels like we're back. I'm back there now. So when you take TEDx and Think Inc., and the 15 new artists on loop, or new and old artists on loop, it feels like that issue, that nanotechnology issue. We're doing disruptive, really interesting articles like nanotechnology mixed with fresh sounds. And it feels like we're doing it in one day.
Articles where? Hang on, the Think Inc. thing, I thought that was events.
But if you think about it, you take the magazine, the content in it is like nanotechnology and just craziness. There's some surprising articles in there, like Death of the Book and nanotechnology, and left-wing articles for a culture magazine, but kind of more like Wired or whatever.
Yeah, and intelligent speculation on where things are going.
And then the culture side, and that's kind of what we're doing in the modern day with Think Inc. events with your Steve Wozniaks and your Dr. Ben Goldacres.
I'll put this to you then. I was just thinking, because the music industry, when you think about it, that kind of selling units, shifting units, is probably how many years was that? A 40, 50 year thing? So the music industry's kind of gone back to a live event focus. So here you are saying the same thing with the magazine now, I think of it, that we've, all that stuff was in a magazine, and now we're actually turning up places again to go and see and hear this stuff.
Yeah,
because the thing is you can't sell media, can you? So you've got to sell seats and tickets and events. And
went down to Tauranga yesterday and did a show that made more than Anna Coddington will make out of streams in a year.
Totally. And so, because you've always seemed to vibe on things. It's probably what keeps you going. Do you still kind of vibe on the tours, or is it at this point are they they're just hard work?
No, they're fun.
They're fun. Yeah.
The logistics and seeing a crowd get a buzz out of what you've helped put on is the buzz. But getting a buzz out of intellectual buzz is like when Edward Snowden got that standing ovation at Moment of Truth that we did at Town Hall with Kim.
Yeah.
And when Wozniak got a standing ovation at the ATS Centre, that intellectual standing ovation buzz compared to the music standing ovation buzz was a completely new buzz. It was like, oh fuck, I've got brainy people standing up and giving a standing ovation instead of drunk people, and this is the new drug.
It's good, man. It's probably shifting times, shifting. I've kind of done the same thing, doing new things, but shifting. What'd you say? Priorities, but also I think if you do one crowd or one whatever, a whole lot, probably just the fact that it was fresh rather than brainy people was probably the exciting thing. That you kind of going down a new.
Yeah, I'd never experienced everyone getting up and cheering for a gig.
And it was weird watching it at home on TV. I think Kim.com shook so many things up. He bought that TV time, didn't he?
We had it streaming live on Al Jazeera, Russian television.
I watched it.
TV3.
Sure, it was TV3.
Yeah.
So did Kim pay for that?
No, we didn't pay for anything. No, I organised all that side of it. I mean, he was a big story. He was meant to be...
Yeah, but broadcasting the whole thing in real time live, I mean, that's almost like switching over to Parliament TV. That's a big sell to put that on at prime time. Because it could have been like watching paint dry.
But it was kind of, wasn't it? I mean, Kim had the evidence to prove that John Key was involved and knew about the raid, and it was jacked up through the movie studios and America bossing us around. And
But I think I remember feeling like it was like when someone's defence in a court case. It felt like the lawyers should have talked and Kim should have maybe didn't. I remember he sort of said a couple of things that maybe made him look a little goofier than if he'd let the other people speak for him.
really, thank God for Glenn Greenwald bringing the leaks over on behalf of Snowden to present at that thing, because otherwise it would have been really lightweight. Because the night before, Kim was told what he couldn't present by his lawyers because it would be needed for the case and it would fuck his case. So, thank God Glenn was there to at least give it some relevance. But it was the nail on the coffin for the election, because Kim had basically said the whole time he's got this proof. It's going to be the moment of truth that John Key's going down. That's why there was so much interest in it. TV3 would have been and were pissed off about how lame-ass the moment of truth was in terms of, well, where's the bombshell,
Yeah.
So thank God that at least there was some news there from, us spying on China and New Zealand through the cables that link the Chinese embassy down Newmarket and stuff like that. There was a bit of stuff, but which kind of saved the ass. But the press conference was just, I just saw the ship sinking. It was like,
the Kim.com.
His lawyers came in and ruined this election, because if he'd put the evidence forward, this would be a different press conference right now. But now
It didn't ruin the election. The outcome of the election was...
It ruined the election for an internet party to get one seat. Like, it was the nail in the coffin there. Like, that was all my mission was to work for the internet party and try and get Laila Hari in on behalf of the internet party. And when we got in, the internet party and Mana would have been separate identities in Parliament.
You're saying that in hindsight, that one event should have been off the calendar to secure a better result?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, no, that's...
Did you kind of realise that at the end of the event going, ugh?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, shame.
But also, there were mini events like Georgina Bayer leaking the weed thing.
It was a bit of a wacky election, really, wasn't it?
And then mental face here, just like losing it with the on TV.
There's wider problems there, Mikey, and I'm sure you know this. That it's just all the nonsense that the media pick up on, and where do you go to find? I mean, go and ask any number of people on election day whoever party they're voting for. Ask them for 5 of their policies. I'm pretty sure a lot of the time, more and more these days, people just kind of don't know, because we get all this kind of circus sideshows what's being reported,
Politics has become about popularity and people rather than policy, and that's evident globally, and it couldn't be more evident right now. And do you know any of Trump or Hillary's policies? No, it's just all come down to...
Well, I think we all know... We're talking about the circus. I think I know about the wall for Mexico,
Yeah.
It's like the wall.
Basically, that's why youth are disengaged.
How's this? I found this. I was chatting to some people about it. I was saying I'm thinking about voting for Chloe Swarbrick for mayor. Oh yeah, wasted vote though. So not only did she come third with no campaign team or budget, she was up 22 hours a day replying to Facebook messages personally and stuff. But I noticed with my teaching that a number of students, basically that her as an example came up in a bunch of essays I marked on a media topic, and I thought, wow, this is, if she wasn't in that local body election, no 18 to 21-year-old would have included the local body elections in their essay, but it was because they related to the fact that she was kind of relatable, So I don't think it's lost all the time. There are kind of curveballs.
And back in our day, Nandor, not for everybody, but for a lot of people that were young and disengaged with politics, he helped re-engage them with his dreadlocks and skateboarding.
I wonder how many people were on the day as almost like just a prank or a bit of anarchy, because once you're... It's funny, even when you go to a little church here or whatever, and once you're in that little cardboard booth or whatever it is, it does feel like quite an important moment. I don't know about you, it does.
Yeah.
So I wonder how many people on the day in the States are just going to go in there and just look around and go, fuck
Trump.
it. Yeah, let's turn the world upside down.
I would.
Yeah.
I know.
Look, I would for, in terms of, trying to break down or pull a finger at such a long-term corrupt system.
Actually, no, I think I wouldn't vote.
I don't know.
Let's move on. Politics.
Yeah. So we'll stick with politics, and with a very interesting character to a lot of New Zealanders, who I think has probably been accurately represented and misrepresented. How was it working for Kim.com, and how much of what we heard in the media was bullshit?
It was fine working for Kim. I looked after his budgets and managed 4 projects for him. So the first project I did with him, which is how he got introduced, was his album.
Yep.
And then that dovetailed into Rhythm and Vines.
Was it hard with the album, you always having had a label where you're really particular about the music?
It wasn't on loop.
No, I know that. But in terms of coming in and hearing what was going on in it stuff, was it sort of odd for you, or you just turned a blind eye to that side of it?
I had to. We're fairly on the bones of our ass consistently. So the chance to put out that album and make.
I'm not at all going for a give you shit about that.
I heard it.
Yeah.
And I'd always respected the guy from what I knew about him at that stage through the John Campbell stuff. But I heard it and said, "Oh, come." Because he thought it was going to be on loop at this point. And I'm like, I can't put that on loop. And, we've had the odd terrible release, but, this would be taking it a level too far.
So you said you actually let him know that...
Yeah, I said, but you can come up with your own name, like a record label, and we'll use our media distribution and promotional skills to manage the release for you, and this will cost this much. And then he just wanted to go bananas. It was the biggest marketing campaign for any album in the history of New Zealand. It was stupid. I didn't want to spend that much, but there were ulterior motives for it. It wasn't just he didn't want to go number one. His mission was to stay in the media as much as possible so that he didn't get extradited. So album was one way, political party had a dual reason, but was another way to keep him in the media.
Right. So I never really thought about it like that. So kind of, I don't know, man. Yeah, quite selfish reasons to do all that.
Yeah.
Because I was about to say in another breath, trying to sort of, frame it positively, I sort of thought, well, New Zealand probably needs more colourful characters kind of shaking stuff up. And I think the party campaign kind of did in its own way. But, yeah.
Yeah. So the other 2 projects outside of Rhythm and Vines, the album were Baboom and...
What's Rhythm and Vines? Getting him a set.
Quite a big production. We did the
You
midnight...
can do 6:45 on Sunday in the Chai tent.
No, we did the midnight set on main stage.
Right.
With the fireworks coordinated and the guy from the Black Eyed Peas flying over to coordinate the whole set.
I suppose if
spent a lot of money on it.
If the drugs are good enough, you could put on a glove puppet at midnight on the main night.
Oh, it actually went off. Have you not seen the live videos?
I'll get straight onto that after you go.
Yeah, sure.
Why have I not Googled Kim.com at Rhythm and Vines?
It goes off. People, Google this now. Google it now. It went off. And thank God it did, because it cost a lot to do. It was a big production. It was awesome. It was like, yeah. And then Baboom was a great idea, but he lost interest in it and he left Baboom, and then the people left running it, who were higher up than me, didn't really direct in the right way. So unfortunately Baboom died about 6 months ago.
Did it also have, I'd imagine, a huge amount of budget fall out of it once he left?
Yeah.
So there were other investors, but nowhere near the support.
Yeah.
And so the idea with Baboom, look, there's a lot happening in the world, Mikey. I'm not going to profess to know much about it, but it was to be a new streaming service based in New Zealand?
In Portugal. That's because that's where our coders
And so
were.
what was it, because I don't doubt you'd have one of these, otherwise you wouldn't have got involved with it. What was its point of distinction to others?
Fair trade streaming, which has never been invented. So it's a new model of breaking up the dollar.
So in other words, instead of getting 14 cents for every 84 billion plays, you get something more like...
You get what you meant to get. So instead of Spotify and all the models work on the $10 goes into a pool and then it's divided out pro rata by how many plays each artist got. You know, everyone knows that's how it works.
Right.
Our model worked differently, where the $10 goes directly to what you stream. So it doesn't go to a pool and then divide it out. It goes directly. So if you had a Baboom account, but you forgot to really listen to it that month, so you listened to one Fat Freddy's Drop and one Milu song, they'd get $5 each.
For one play?
Yeah, because that's all you listen to that month.
Oh, you're $10. Ah,
Get
so
it?
it's
Yeah.
that fair trade. That
It's direct.
Right.
It's direct from it's direct from the consumer to the artist for payment. And it was also, there's a double reason why that's better. Not only is it a fairer payment system, but and transparent payment system where there's no silly algorithms from the streaming services kind of thrown in there to make it even worse. But
Man, that's so
it
simple,
gave you the
it's just
data. So you've got data on who streamed it. Oh, look at that. Bernie from
You
Iceland.
mean the artist gets the data as well?
Yeah.
Right, so if they actually take off on a subscription service like that, they can actually map territories before they tour. They go, we'll go to Okefenokee Bubblefuck in the States because we've got 100 people there. You could actually go, this is where the people are based. Because if you are an indie artist, I mean, if you wanted to do a kind of, staying on couches tour of somewhere like the States, I'd imagine, like I say, I joke, but that sort of data of small catchments of audience would be the difference between an empty venue and getting a wee crowd everywhere. So I'm going to ask you one other question about Baboom, and you've probably been asked this in many meetings when you were trying to sell it, and I'd imagine it was a huge difficulty with it. How do you even compete with what's available on all the other, how do you compete with that mass major record label content that's on things like Spotify?
Well, they didn't want to succeed, but we were a B2B, a direct to artist, a direct to consumer platform.
So, but I'm saying, like, if you're a recruiting artist yourself, it's a hugely difficult task compared to there being, hundreds of thousands of tunes from Universal and Warner's.
Yeah, but we were always like an indie store. We were like the Troubadour, Flipside Records compared
Gotcha.
to the CD store, because what we did is we paid artists every night. So you got paid every day, whereas on these other services you get paid 90 days.
Right, so there's a real incentive to get on there.
It's like Bandcamp.
So for me as an artist, it would be like, well, I'll just see what happens. And it's not, like, if they're on Spotify, it's not exclusive. They can still be with you and be with Bandcamp. And
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a direct to consumer platform. So the artists had direct access, and
is it still going?
no.
That's a shame, eh? And I think a lot of it, as I say, it's just that we've got such an extreme concentration of power and wealth in a lot of these industries. How do you even...
Well, it's
How
a
do
shame
you even
because
start?
it could be going, but the people that took over from when Kim left just really had no idea, and it could have been set up to sustainably just be running itself now. Like it was pretty much there to just be an engine that was just on the net and just slowly snowball itself. But
So closing off on Kim, so interesting guy to work for. Did those projects. He now is, from what I understand, still in the country, but kind of appealing extradition.
yeah, he's just going to extend it out as much as possible through
You still in contact?
the High Court, Supreme Court, kind of go up a level of court each time it gets knocked back. So he should. The extradition's probably another quite a while away yet.
Still in contact? Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Nowhere near as much. Like it used to be daily, and now it's like.
Did you
probably
get
every
people
few
being
months.
quite unfair to you or toxic about you working with him? Because I was going to say New Zealand, that's a little unfair. People can get ruthless like that.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean,
What did you think about that?
Oh, I knew that was coming before I decided
Yeah.
to move ship with him. But I have no respect for the major labels, and Sony and Universal really took to me hammer and tongs about it. And I remember Adam from Universal saying I've drunk the Kim.com Kool-Aid, and Kim from Sony, because I was running the One Direction concerts with Sony at the time. I'd started to work with Kim on the album, and Sony threatening me in the room. So Kim was going, I'll be calling your boss at Nine Entertainment in Sydney and telling him that you're working for Kim.com and having you removed from anything to do with working at Ticketek and Nine Live. I'm like, well, good luck to you. And
You're still here?
yeah, no, well, and I still kept the job, but like Sony and Universal in particular were really not happy about
Oh,
it.
hang on, this is specifically Baboom rather than Kim in general. If there's all these record companies getting stressed out at you, is that what you're meaning?
Oh, that was working for Kim.
Yeah, in general. Well, even just working on the album.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was just working on that one. That was pre-Baboom or anything like that.
And then running a political campaign when you've never been in politics. What did you take away from that? I was quite amazed when you chatted to me about that. What'd you learn? You're in the political system, it's quite, what'd you learn?
I learnt that even the politicians that appear nice aren't. Like once a politician, always a politician. They're all pretty.
It's about winning every few years, eh?
They're all continually, even in their personal and lives, playing politics. Like that.
Yeah.
It's really weird. It's rare that you find one that's.
Well,
I don't know.
someone like, with obvious call, but Helen Clark, who obviously totally played politics, but I would like to still think, has and had integrity.
Yeah, well, the ones that I got
They
exposed
exist,
to,
but at the same time, you got to win every few years. You got to win.
the ones that I got exposed to were interesting. But I learned a lot about the Electoral Act, and I'm going to use that to my advantage this next election next year, and just try and work to bring, not with any party, but just to try and get the youth engaged in politics again. So
Get some sort of government funding and try and get youth. I love Tom Scott's one of the most talented artists I've come across in years, but don't get him to rap about killing the Prime Minister.
Yeah,
I'm
we've got
misguided.
a great weapon is music.
I'm such a fan, and I was such a fan, and I think he's extraordinarily talented, and I love how Homebrew was, almost like a comic book Eminem kind of thing, and people thought that was him, but there's actually this amazing artist with that piece and so on. And then he did that, and I was like, oh man, that's not the best. It's not the best thing I've seen done in terms of I know that the sentiment behind it, but yeah.
Yeah, I took away so much that it's another 6-hour interview, but to cut a long story short, I just took away that we need to engage the youth in politics again, and I'm going to do everything I can every election to try and just get another, even just 1,000 more kids that weren't going to vote voting. That's awesome. Because
that's the stats, right? The voting's going down and down and down, but still it's the plus 50s and whatever that still pretty much all turn up.
Yeah, and the establishment don't really want the kids to vote because then it's going to disrupt the results.
Did you open that? I've never been a local body election voter, and I thought I've just got to pull finger to do it this time, and I opened it up, and it's like, main election's really easy, you probably need an IQ of 48 to do those ticks. But I looked at it, and I was like, who will be on your health board? And then who will be on this and who will be on that? And I was like, ugh. And then I chatted to my folks about it, and they'd actually made a point of taking an hour or two out of their day on a Sunday and whatever, sitting there and studying everyone and so on. So my point being is to vote in something like that, locals. It's actually a lot of work to tick the right boxes. What do you think about online voting?
Yeah, I think with the Bitcoin technology or blockchain technology, which could make it secure and transparent, that it would be off the chain. I think until the blockchain technology is used in collaboration with it, that it could just be rigged like hard out.
Last thing about Kim, do you reckon he'll go to jail?
I don't know. I really don't know.
You don't want to be. You don't want to. I mean, you're not your defence. Your what do you call it? Prosecution, being the United States. Pretty heavy.
One thing about working with him is it becomes all encompassing. So you do know everything about everything to do with him, and as soon as you go back to doing other things, you just don't really know as much about it anymore. And the case changes literally week by week. There's quite major developments. So what I knew when I saw him a month ago would have changed 6 times, and so.
Yeah, I'd imagine that being that involved in anyone's kind of dealings, especially with all that going on, would probably get quite toxic after a while if you end up working for 20 years or something like that. So where were we back with the chronological career? I think we're up to Loop magazine. Let's go all the way back to 2000 and 2000 and whatever it was. What eventually happened with the magazine?
So we kept putting the CDs on the front cover.
How long? 2 years?
About a year and a bit.
Shit, time went slow back then.
I know. And you got... it did.
Yeah, well, it's relative to age.
Yeah, it is. It just became a struggle to run a mag from Wellington, so it was successful, but we just decided that the market had enough, and he was key to what he did in it. So, and we had some great investors that weren't worried about winding it up, aka Bill Giannakakis, who had just built and sold Paradise Internet, an ISP to
is that the guy
Telstra.
that bought the Lamborghini and crashed it into the...
Yeah.
Is that him?
Yeah, but it was a Ferrari.
He bought the latest Nokia for the cutest girl at Felix and then crashed his car into the... Like, she was just serving him coffee. That was their relationship. And he came in with, the boxed up... back when Nokia was... Yeah, then he crashed...
That was Shane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There was a couple of them that bought flash cars after that. But why wouldn't you? You just built an ISP. You've gone from owning a fish and chip shop and kind of doing nothing to being worth
I don't know.
30
How do you
million.
go from fish and chip shop to IT?
Oh, well, that was an interesting thing.
Better.
Brooklyn, so you're driving Brooklyn Hill.
Yeah.
And you get to Brooklyn Shops and you go left into the Brooklyn Shops, and there's that fish and chip shop on the left, just hand side there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the guy that owned that, who still does own that, owned a third of Paradise because he put in the original little seed money to buy the first servers to Shane and Bill.
Wow.
So he went from
So like a friend or something,
to,
I've got this idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
To about $11 million. So anyway, how that got involved is they were our investors. They said, we don't mind if you guys want to wind it up. We could do with a tax break, basically.
Yeah.
So we did. And Mark didn't want to do anything with the name Loop. So I said, well, I'd like to move that over and work with the name Loop. And so we did.
Straight away. So you didn't have some sort of like crisis in the middle or whatever. You just went, okay, I can keep the ball rolling with...
Well, there was a crisis, but I'd been through other crises and that was pretty minor compared to the Wilson and Horden crisis a few years earlier. And
That sounds like that might have been really good for you, straight off. Getting fucked.
and then the CDs had become legendary. People were going into the shops, buying the magazine and chucking the magazine back at the counter and taking the CD off it and shit like that.
Really?
Yeah. And it helped.
I spent days writing that nanotechnology article.
And I reckon we'd built a scene and got a scene that was going to be exposed anyway, but we expedited that and up to Auckland and Christchurch and stuff. So we had these bands around us that wanted us, that didn't have any major label, didn't want the major label, or didn't know about the major labels. It was all quite a young scene. So the first thing we did was Cloudboy. So we put out Cloudboy and just distributed it like the magazine to the shops.
Yeah.
And then the Trinity Roots EP, which was like our first kind of record deal ever, was like this funny record deal where we just loaned Trinity Roots money and then they paid it back with a little bit of interest, but we said don't worry about the interest and as long as our logo's on it, and it was
cool.
all a bit chill.
Bro jobs.
It was a bro
Wellington
job.
bro jobs.
And then made the conscious decision to find a proper contract and got some free contracts. I brought the name mp3.co.nz as just on the side back then, and I owned that name and I gave that to Amplifier.
Right.
And basically, in return for the URL that I gave Chris Hoggard from Amplifier, he wrote my first contracts, which were the first proper contracts on Loop, Re and Sheen.
Good URL.
And the Black Seeds.
Better than realtoreal.co.nz.
Yeah.
VCR.
And didn't have any experience in music, but it wasn't too dissimilar to a magazine. You've got to promote the fact that the magazine's out there and you've got to distribute it and collect all the money. And instead of Gordon and Gotch, it was an independent distributor called Border. And fucking went off. I mean, Rian and Black Seeds just went off. Like,
Yeah.
Rian...
That Black Seeds album sold proper units, right? It went gold, didn't it?
Yeah, that's in the volume exhibition at the museum.
I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, but it's the gold version's in the museum. I've got a platinum one, which I
You mean the
don't know.
gold record?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Rian went off. I mean, he... 2 tracks from that made Buddha Bar and Cafe Del Mar when those comps were still serious commodities. And then the synchronizations that came to Rian from that one album were huge.
Very talented man. He was at my high school till about 4th or 5th form, and he used to come to school dressed as Michael Jackson circa Bad era every day.
Yeah, he loves Michael.
Yeah. But proper, really great get up. I mean, very eccentric, but, you definitely remember that. Who comes to, especially, he's a blonde, light-skinned fellow, turning up every day with the buckles and the black and the slick.
Did he?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Rian, I'm going to call you
Ran.
after
He was
this.
called Ran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I changed his name.
Why? You just didn't think Ran was marketable?
I didn't know. So he never told me. So I met the guy through Loop magazine CDs.
So it's like one of those classic, you introduce them wrong and it sticks.
Yeah. Because his dad lent us $5,000 to pay for getting the album out, right?
Yeah.
And the album went really well. So after less than a couple of months, we had the money to pay his dad back. So we're sitting around the Loop office, which was the X magazine office, and Rian's dad Grant goes, "Awesome work, Ran." I'm like, "Ran?"
Have you been calling him Rian for months?
Yeah.
Awkward.
I'd been calling him Rian. And introducing him to radio and on radio as Rian.
And he didn't say anything?
He never said anything.
I actually think that, I don't, sounds like I'm taking down a man's name. Ryan's a great name, but I think Rian kind of actually sounds better on an album. Like, it's like, kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit.
Rian Sheehan. Ran Sheehan.
Rian. So his surname is Sheehan.
Yeah.
Right. I did that with the neighbour here. I'd got him to do little odd jobs and chat away. And blah, blah, blah. He's come in here a few times, and I called him what was I calling him? Because he's Australian, so I must have had a bunch of what I think are Australian names in my head. So I was calling him Craig for like a year and a half. To his face, his name was Tony. And I only found out when
And he never corrected you.
He never corrected me.
You're in.
And I'm all like, hey, blah, 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 hey, Craig. This is Craig.
Ran never corrected me. And then...
It's closer. I mean, Craig and Tony and Ran and Rian.
Yeah.
So that happened.
And then the labels kept going. So we're... Oh, God. From My Pretties 6, which is out on the 11th, 2016, is LPO 78. So that's the 78th album on loop.
Then there's been all the comps, the stuff with other businesses,
and singles.
Singles.
So releases are well over 300, but yeah, well over 200.
But they must be
somewhere between 200 and 300.
They must be more like almost promo for shows and stuff now. Like, I guess some people would still buy. Where do you buy CDs? Real Groovy? Where do you buy CDs? Do you have people still buying CDs? Because it's like vinyl. There are people who dig a good CD.
Well, we pre-ordered his live for Flying Pretty's limited edition CD with a poster you pull out and fold out yesterday. And as of last night, it had sold 72 pre-orders in a day. So, and that's of the physical product. But back in the day, that would have been in the hundreds. So
now, I want to ask you about that. I don't want to blow smoke up your ass, but weren't you kind of early on doing what a lot of music distributors are kind of doing now and trying to do that kind of value-added stuff? Like, I remember...
Yeah, well, it always felt like the CD was a bit of a rip-off, and we're adding books. We added books. You know, those art books of New Zealand art was with the looks.
Yeah, and then for Yes King, it was like either a shirt or beer or something. What was it with Yes King? You buy a shirt...
Oh, that made his book. Did you read Mark Gray's book yet?
No.
And I made his book.
Write that down.
And in Mark Gray's history of Grand Central and all this stuff... he makes quite a proud little paragraph about the world's first album T-shirt.
I'll tell you about that album, never mind the T-shirt. So yeah, for listeners, you'd buy the album or buy the T-shirt, whichever way you want to look at it, and you'd get t'other with it. I've always been a huge fan of Mark Ray, but that project in particular, I think you might have handed me a promo. No, I was doing shows at B, and I somehow ended up with a promo. That album, man. It was amazing at the time, and it's held up. And then as a DJ, it's one of those records you could pull out anywhere, and it kind of works.
No, it's
a big record.
I wish I'd had some. Imagine if I'd had the Kim.com budget for that Yes King album.
But you didn't fund the production and stuff. You mean the distro and so on, like the marketing campaign.
Yeah, imagine that. It would have gone global because it was such a good album.
Stunning.
There's a great.
I actually like it better. I like both of them, but I like it better than the sophomore one that came out afterwards. That original one.
Oh, it's killer. And Mark Ray's book with a read. There's a Yes King chapter in there about how they made in Jamaica and blah blah. And there's some personal issues in his life at that time as well, with the bankruptcy of Grand Central and leaving the UK to go live in LA and playing soccer with Robbie Williams and shit like that.
And so, how did you end up managing Skinny Puppy? That doesn't seem like a very Mikey
it's not
project.
No.
Industrial 1980s heyday band?
So I'm just the crazy Mikey in Wellington, putting music out and loving it, and get a call in the middle of the night saying, "Hi, it's Bennett Freed here from America. I love your Green Room series." And
I thought this was the Earth, Wind and Fire story. Does it relate to Skinny Puppy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, so he basically said, "I love your music. My son's autistic. I brought him to New Zealand. I came to New Zealand to investigate Murray healers and alternative ways and medicines of healing autism. And the guide that drove me around the whole time had your Green Rooms 1 to 5 compilation series of New Zealand roots and reggae, and I fell in love with your record label. Can we invest?"
Another one of those great universe moments.
Yeah, and I'm like, cool.
Were you at first like, "Hey, who is this?
Not really.
Is this Steve? Who is this? Come on."
No, because it came up. He called it a really random hour, like 5 a.m.
Right.
So it got the time zones wrong, and it was a 001, which came up on the. I remember coming up on the phone, so I kind of half believed it, and googled him when I got up. And there wasn't much on him, so then I kind of half disbelieved it. And but he flew to Wellington, was legit, and then I flew to LA, and he introduced me to Maurice White from Earth, Wind and Fire, and Art McNell, the manager from the very beginning to the end of Earth, Wind and Fire. Both of them rest in peace from this year, actually.
Really?
Yeah. And Jim Mervis and Stephanie Bennett, another couple that were... Jim was from high up at MGM, and Stephanie Bennett, and they became our investors in America. And then one of Bennett's best mates, after he'd introduced me to these investors, and he kind of swapped places, he then moved to Waiheke to their pad and kept on healing, and did the healing thing. the hippie hilly thing, and I went to the
Waihiki's a
States.
fruity little island, isn't it? There's all
one
sorts of things going on there.
One of Bennett's best mates was Jeff Jacquin, who managed Skinny Puppy. So Skinny Puppy came in. So we started paying Jeff's wage at Loop USA, and so Skinny Puppy by default folded into Loop.
Right.
Yeah. So he continued to manage Skinny Puppy, but under while Loop was paying him. So all the profit from Skinny Puppy went to Loop,
Would Loop
or the management profit.
Would Loop have ever thought about trying to do something meaningful in the US if it weren't for that kind of random travel through New Zealand story and him calling? Like, was it on the
No,
cards?
not at all, because it
too
diverted.
big, man.
We'd all been part of with Loop and Freddy's, and
Because you're a very esoteric kind of New Zealand. There's a very New Zealandness to your label, you know.
well, we'd already invested with, as Freddy's and Black Season everyone had. We'd already invested a trip to London with that Fabric gig we did, and we had distribution and Charlie, and we'd really put a lot of time into
Distribution and Charlie. What kind of Charlie?
Oh, Charles Kirby Welsh.
Oh, I thought you said you went to London to Fabric and you had distribution and Charlie.
Charlie is a guy, Charles Kirby Welsh, who still to this day works with Fat Freddy's Drop in London on everything. And I introduced him to Fat Freddy's, actually. So he's a friend I made in France when I was at a music conference. And
Wow.
then he became Loop's label manager, managed the first, Rian Shen and Black Seeds and the Loop compilations coming out in the UK, really successfully, actually. Like, they were all monetarily successful. He was a really sharp guy. He was ex-EMI, but really young and wanted to break out and be independent. Then I introduced him to Freddy's, and he became Fat Freddy's label for vinyl. Like, he's that Cartel.
Cartel, yeah, I was going to say that.
He's
sounds
Cartel.
like Cartel, yeah.
And so his company's doing really well as label services over in the UK still, and I haven't done much with him. He did come.com for me, though.
In Europe?
Yeah. And
How'd it go over there?
well, again, he needs money to keep his independent business going, so it went okay. Just happened randomly. Yeah, just happened randomly, the Skinny Puppy thing. So,
Oh no, we'd moved on from Skinny Puppy. Now I'm putting you on the spot. I think I'd asked you something else. Well, now you've made me forget where we were.
well, we were just, yeah, so that, I hadn't really finished the Skinny Puppy, so that was random, and it was interesting to see an American band on that level work, because they're not, they're Canadian, first off, but they lived in LA, but like they weren't unsuccessful, but they're a medium. They're medium.
To me, they'd be like if you relate, they'd be a power station band if they came over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that sort of interesting spot between not a small band and not a blockbuster kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a hugely cult following because it's such
Huge. Yeah.
a cult thing.
Very, very, totally. I know them. I mean, I don't know their music, but I totally know who they are through student radio.
Yeah, and
they're
that's-
one of those bands.
That's
you know?
also how we dovetail into managing the Mint Chicks over there with Cody and the guys, because I introduced them to Jeff, who managed Skinny Puppy and was really into his indie music. And Jeff really was passionate about the Mint Chicks, so that's how they folded into Loop over there as well.
So it sounds like a kind of career of, kind of passion and determination and business sense, and just kind of constantly trying to join dots.
Yeah,
You just got to join dots, don't you?
Yeah, man. And so
Is there? Yeah.
America was America. Again, that didn't work out, like heaps of things, but
But it did work out because you spent a couple of years over there. You didn't end up in horrendous debt.
no, it worked out financially thanks to mainly this huge job I got for MTV, which was working on Jackass.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Did you meet like Mr. Knoxville?
I met them all. Yeah, so I had to do 2 days in a Burbank studio recording all their vocals for a promo campaign for Jackass the MTV game. So I was with them all for
Wow.
2 days.
So hang on, you wouldn't be engineering. You were making sure they got on and recorded properly. You were like overseeing.
I was head of music supervision and marketing for Jackass, the PlayStation game.
Was Steve-O all Wu-Tang and fucked up, or was he clean by then?
I couldn't really tell.
Because you know that there's been a remarkable turnaround, right? He's like a 12-stepper and stuff now.
Ah,
There's an amazing video online. I watched it. It was actually just one of those random internet things I actually ended up watching twice over because it was just like, oh, what's going on here? And it's him at the height of his addiction. He was doing whatever, coke, whatever else, just everything by the bucket load, but lots of nitrous as well. But he was filming everything as well, and he'd hired one apartment where he was filming everything. He'd hired another apartment next door to put a skateboard ramp in, and he was terrorising this other neighbour who kept complaining about the noise, and he eventually punches a hole through that wall so he can yell at the neighbour. He films all of this. You can watch it online. It's like him filming his decline. And then eventually it's Knoxville who does an intervention. And by the time he goes to the intervention, Steve-O's tweeted out to like all his followers. You remember how big, well, of course you know how big Jackass was.
Yeah.
So he's tweeted, I think he went on the email list, because it was probably pre-Twitter. Emailed everyone, like thousands of people. Tomorrow I'm going to jump off the building, blah, 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 on my skateboard or whatever. And so he'd been up for days and days and days. They did an intervention. I think he tried to escape from hospital twice and so on, and they finally got him in treatment, and then since then he's been kind of clean, as it were. But the footage is just nuts. He's in this, like, imagine my place like this, just covered in nitrous bulbs.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's actually the random thing, my life is random. Like, so the random thing about that Jackass thing is, Wee Man.
Yeah. I like a good bit of Jackass every now and again. I do know Wee Man. He's quite distinguishable.
I bumped into Wee Man like 4 other times in my life since. It's
Where?
like just random places. Las Vegas, Australia, and in LA again twice. And it was like, there's a connection between me and Wee Man.
Me and Wee Man.
Wee Man and me.
When I moved to Melbourne, there was a dwarf doing photo shoots. He was like let's say a pretty hip dwarf. Is that a correct term?
I think you say midget, don't you? I don't know what you say. No, you say
who looked like
a disadvantaged person.
Who looked like me.
Right.
And so everyone, friends, Mike and Jake, and everyone so on, thought it was incredibly hilarious. And then I'd finally started seeing him out. And so there was I had a mini-me. But a mini-me that was, as I say, gracing the photo spreads of some quite, let's say, Loop-esque fashion shoots.
Fuck.
Yeah. It's probably still around. You know those guys who are like, they're just, everyone in the city kind of knows who they are? One of those. How do we get there?
I don't know. But yeah, like, we talked about Jackass, and I just randomly remembered bumping into Wee Man my whole life.
And so they're pretty... they could basically, when I think about it, they're like the old rock and roll, the things that people kind of don't do now. Like, were they totally like that all the time, or were they actually...
Yeah, I remember
put your head down and get the work done in the studio?
They came in to do these voiceovers, partly for the game. Well, they've been done for... partly for the game, but partly for promo, like for voiceovers for MTV ads and radio and shit like that. And, I can very remember one of the days, we just got nothing done, Like, they'd be halfway through finishing a really good take in the studio. They'd all burst in and, just random things would be happening all the time.
One last thing with Steve, something else that amazed me, because he was nearly homeless before he got discovered by MTV and so on. I'm going to make up a figure here, but it'll be around the ballpark of low. He agreed to do that first series of Jackass for like $4,000 US or something.
Right.
Like, that's what MTV signed him for. So he suddenly, it goes gangbusters overnight, and he's super famous, and he's got this $5,000 check that he spunked in 2 days, and then no other work coming in. It's really interesting story. He's like a really likeable, kind of quite tragic story.
Yeah.
Don't watch his stand-up. It's terrible. I decided after listening to all of that I'd watch his stand-up. It was like one of the worst things I've ever seen.
How long's it been? How long's this been going?
I reckon another 10 minutes. Can you do that?
Look at this on Twitter.
You can stop now. Fuck you, internet party. Who's that from?
That's just... I've still got access to the internet party.
Someone's bothered on a sunny October 30th, 2016...
to say fuck you.
To fuck the internet party from 3 years ago or 4 years ago. I did the test online, Mikey. There was a really...
See, I've got access... Those are all the Twitter accounts I've got access to, so... And then, but internet party I'm still an admin of, just by randomness, so... So let's dig deeper, man. Let's go.
Hey,
let's just push.
You know what you can do is you can grab something.
Look, it's still got 9,028 followers.
Well, why would you unfollow if you?
Should we do a tweet from the internet party?
Sure. Big up the podcast. I did one of those online tests. Who you should vote for? Did you see those?
Oh no, it's from Fuck You. So
I've lost him to his phone.
Yeah, no, you've lost him to his phone because look, the tweet is actually from Fuck You.
So they just fuck you to anyone. Maybe. So I did that online test, Mikey. Who should you vote for the last election?
Either on the fence one.
It was really well done. And you know what came up for me? Based on my
internet party
beliefs, it's on internet party.
Yeah, it was. The policies were solid. We actually
ask me who I voted for.
Who'd you vote for?
Not the internet party.
No, right. Ask me who I voted for.
Who'd you vote for?
I'm not saying.
Okay, before you go, I feel like, man, it's one of those things I love. I just want to do these and let them go where they go, and I feel like I've still got about 80% of what I'd like to ask you and talk to you about, but that's fine. But just for a bit of fun, I need to do this every episode. I need to get my feature in. I still have a bit of radio left in me, Mikey. Behind the computer, there's a black bag. That's the, just wait. I've got to remember what it's called. Someone named it, the last guest. That's the awkward satchel of segways.
Yeah.
Can you just pick one of those and read it out? And
Okay.
there's about 7 in there. I'd like to get listeners to start writing them after a while.
Okay. Do I read it out?
Yeah.
The awkward satchel of segways.
Would you rather fight 1 horse size 4? How about you read it out, because I can't read your writing.
It looks like an 8-year-old wrote that. Who'd believe that man's got a PhD?
The awkward satchel of segways.
Would you rather fight 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Okay, 1 horse-sized duck or 100 horse-sized...
Duck-sized horses.
Oh, definitely 1 horse-sized duck.
Why?
Because I've only got 1 thing to worry about, not 100. That's mainly why. And you see how powerful people are in numbers. And I actually think 100 bucking horse... little horses would, and with their little teeth, would be real vicious.
And their little hooves.
Yeah, and little hooves.
It's 200 little hooves, and they're also, I think,
no, it's 400.
400 hooves. Sorry.
Well, yeah, but 2 that can really get you, because they can't kick you with 4 hooves at once. But yeah, 1, because then you just then it's David Goliath. Then it's about strategy, running away, hiding, dropping a net over.
But
it.
have you walked through Western Springs Park?
Can I do another one?
Hang on, we've got to finish this. That was that was sort of a real insight of your personality there. It's like, we're probably going to do the whole bag all of a sudden. We'll just do a little bit. No, we'll do the whole bag.
Yeah, totally.
So...
Pass it back, man.
Wait. I just wanted to say that in defence of the other option, that ducks are quite nippy. They're quite full on.
There's only 1.
Especially when you think about the size of that...
beak.
Bill, thanks. The size of that bill. I mean, imagine that coming at you.
Yeah, I considered that in the answer.
Okay, I will give you one more. Feels weird sticking them together. There you go.
Okay, thank you. I just love games.
The awkward satchel of segways.
What is the current?
What is the current?
Is that what it says? Yeah, but you read it again.
This is a pop culture question. There was an episode of a Family Guy where Peter Griffin is getting subliminal messages through the TV that says you must recommend Breaking Bad and The Wire to everyone. Okay, so remember when everyone was like, "Have you seen Breaking Bad? Have you seen The Wire? Have you seen Breaking Bad? Have you seen The Wire?" Yeah. So, what's your show at the moment that is along those lines? Are you a big TV watcher? I should ask.
No, not at all. I'm not. But I'm a Netflix.
One's a bit shit. I've got to.
No,
that was supposed to be general.
I'm a Netflix binger.
I'll be
the last one I binged on.
Beating myself up about that at 10 tonight. That didn't work.
I just don't know. I think it was called.
Could you describe the hair or the music, or was there a big man? Was there an army of ducks?
No, there wasn't a big man. I can't remember. It was like, no, I'm not really into TV, but there was a couple of things I binge watched this year, and one of them was House of Cards. But there was one after that that's been on Netflix.
House of Cards, I nearly gave up, and all these people, you know how you got your people, you see them online or whatever. You're like, okay, if that person recommends it, boom, I'm in there. I was so close to abandoning it, and then about 6 episodes or whatever into the first, I just watched 2 or 3 seasons and like next to none.
Same.
Really good.
I loved it.
I won't keep you too much longer. I want to ask you kind of some more general questions. What is the future of kind of the music industry and the major labels and all of that?
Well, unfortunately, major labels have kept their grip on their monopoly the majority of their grip on the monopoly through
Streaming.
Yeah, by buying and owning a lot of Spotify. So Spotify is partly owned by Universal and Sony, and this whole SoundCloud thing, making them go legit, was driven by the majors wanting a slice of it, in my opinion, anyway. And so that they've clung on that way, and God, they're horrible beasts. Now they just sign on data. So if you want to be signed to a major, there's no soul or.
So by signing on data, are you meaning that no A&R dude or dudette comes and checks out your show? And
nah,
blah, blah,
they
blah,
just
blah,
look at your stats on YouTube and SoundCloud and other places to see, if you've had 3 videos over 1 million, then maybe you're worth looking at, kind of thing.
Do you think there possibly might be an artist then that's hired a click farm in India to get, you know what I mean? Like, how do you?
Yeah, there's New Zealand artists that I know have done that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so easy to tell when they've done that, because the views need to relate.
Goes up 1,000 in 2 minutes or whatever.
Well, that's one way, but the other way is the views generally follow with comments and likes and interaction around that piece of content. And if it's just a really high number with really low interactivity on comments,
so they'll be on to all of that.
Yeah, well, some of them might not be, but you can kind of tell what's been farmed and what hasn't if you're smart enough. But sometimes it might just be luck that it hasn't got lots of comments and likes as well as views, but that would be really rare. So but now you can farm all of those. You can farm comments, clicks, views, and likes. So
I cut you off on a wider, probably more poignant comment in that, there was still, despite what people say about big business and music, there were still people who loved music in those big companies. But you're saying there's less and less room for them now, and it's kind of analytics. And does that make it easier for people like you, for organisations like you guys? Because I see that. What I kind of love about all of this is it's kind of really punk. I feel like if people know what they're doing, we take it back to that kind of, street level, I don't know, like you're saying, doing gigs, not expecting to be Lady Gaga or Michael Jackson or whatever, just sustaining something a lot more kind of, I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's so many answers to this question, there really are a lot of ways you can answer this, but one way that springs to mind to answer it is people, need to do it for the love of it and it's not their sole income is making it as a career musician. It's so hard these days. Even some of our top guys have got jobs now. So it's about a 360-degree model. So it's a label services thing. So gone are the days of having 12 staff above Radioactive and just smashing it, just doing records in the odd concert.
Yeah.
Now it's there's 4 staff, including me, and when we work with an artist, we work with them in their entirety. So we do their live bookings, we do their tours, we do their merch, sponsorship, and put out their record as a part of the whole partnership, I guess it is, rather than a record deal. Because record labels, as just a label...
Well, you wouldn't be out driving the van and so on if it was a traditional record label deal. It's grassroots. It's like...
it's still very grassroots. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm still not sure about 100 tiny horses versus a large duck, but...
what would you choose?
Well, I have to think about that tonight.
That's pretty easy, man. 100 tiny horses.
Shall I put the jug on, or do you have to run?
I'll definitely have a cuppa. And you're not going to ask what artists are on loop now, though? You're not interested about the current?
Oh, no, you were just sort of starting to pull out sunglasses and check your Twitter and stuff, so I didn't want
to... Oh, no, I just saw fuck you from a distance.
Who's on loop?
I was looking for the time. It's 4:22 p.m.
We've done really well. I'm looking here, it's an hour and 17 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I get 3 minutes to talk about what Loop's up to.
Yeah.
How's that? Because you'll see you've got Electric Wire Hustle written down there, so let's start with that.
I don't write anything down, Mikey.
Electric Wire Hustle.
I was just going to say they're really great, and it's great to see them doing really good things.
Yeah, no, it is. It's great to see.
Mara's very talented.
Yeah, Mara is very talented. So it's just Mara now. So this album's Mara on his own with a bit of help from Dave before Dave left the band. And the album in the middle was just Dave and Mara, and the first album was Dave, Mara, and Miley. So it's slowly gone from 3 to 2 to 1. And the music kind of follows that theme. Like if you listen to the music of album 3, 2, and 1, it kind of follows that, and it's very experimental, but getting mad raps with the heads. This new album, stoked to be part of it and doing Mara's live shows, which are going off with Troy Kingy and Mark Van Allow. Just 3 of the most amazing velvet
so he's
voices.
Out, even though it's his baby, he's out with some other people on stage. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it's going off. But why I'm doing Loop again now? Because after going and working with Kim and Ticketek and 9 Live, I wasn't. The label had really slowed down release wise, and I decided last year, 2015, to kind of take the year off, in a sense. Like, would just be really slow compared to my pace of doing things after a year of doing Loop and the Kim.com stuff with a bit of Ticketek stuff, and just be chill and just investigate doing the record label again. And that's then transpired into this year, which is me getting passionate about music again. And why I was passionate in the beginning was because I saw a scene in Wellington that Loop could be part of that was inspiring and eventually has made it, and was...
There was a moment
awesome.
in time and a place that it's not just us being nostalgic and that's where we were. There was definitely something happening there, like scenes you talk about coming up, you know, that was what was going on.
And I see one in Auckland now, and that's based around Yokozuna and Bailey Wiley and Third Eye and Young and Gifted and Broke and Madcap.
Totally.
And it's soul raps, and it's totally awesome. So...
Maybe I won't.
We were stoked to work with Bailey Wiley, Milu, and Yokozuna and Third Eye from that scene, who are a part of it. Kind of like we work with Black Seas and Twin Set and Ren and Ebb, which were just part of that Wellington scene with other bands in it.
Yeah.
And it's really inspiring. Like, Yokozuna are like the roots of Auckland, who play with all these different soul rappers and vocalists like Bailey and Daryl Young. And you go to these King's Arms gigs, and it's just all these...
I have.
Yeah, and it's just this amazing...
I went to the one Tom Scott curated for Red Bull, and I left. Same thing. I left. I'm everything you just said. I totally relate to. And, and I've been through that lull. You know, I've been listening to more podcasts and music lately. But I came out of that gig going, that's the first gig in a while that every act has kind of turned me on.
Yeah, especially in Soulless Auckland, which has really never had a scene. It's really interesting.
But they're doing, back to what you're saying, all coming full circle. They are doing what those cats in Wellington were doing. So it might not be geographically the same, but they've all kind of supported each other. That whole Young, Gifted and Broke thing is about, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's about that support network of like there being a bunch of people all doing different stuff, but kind of coming together as a unit.
And so what's fucking awesome is that they're on the early 20s. I'm turning 40 this year.
Yeah.
I've hired a guy called Dan who's in his early 20s as well, who they all get on really well with.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting back and letting Dan do what I did 20 years ago, just supplying mentorship / advice / dare I say it, a little bit of wisdom about, oh no, hey, I remember fucking that up back in the day, don't do that.
You got some Ralph Macchio stuff going on there, some Pat Morita.
Yeah. And then I deal with, dare I say it, the vintage acts on Loop, and this couldn't be more true than being at Converse Shoes a couple of weeks ago. Jazz was there, she manages Bailey Wiley and Lawton Cora. And Converse Shoes saying, Lawton, you're a bit too vintage for Converse now. We're not going to give you shoes anymore.
Those are timeless shoes.
Yeah, but...
Shame on you, Converse.
Lawton, Cora, too vintage. And that's kind of resonates home, though. So it's like I have a closer relationship and work closer with Rhea Hall, Electric Wire Hustle, Barnaby and Fly My Pretties, and Rian Sheehan. Not the vintage acts, because they actually, all of those acts make good coin and keep Loop alive. But like... the older acts, and I get on with them. They're my peers, and I think what you find in life is, and if you're doing what you love, which I do, you're friends with the people you work with, and it's not that I can't be friends with these 20-year-olds.
No,
it's just that
I
can't.
what you're saying is
I can't
totally
be at Las
clear.
Vegas Club or King's Arms.
Well, that's right. And the other thing
till
is
6 a.m.
The other thing is like you're providing that wisdom and stuff, but you don't want to like them to feel like you're this guy going, "Hey, you guys heard about text messaging?"
And they love Dan, and I think they think I'm okay, but like it's great.
Yeah,
it's great to have these older acts on Loop, especially Fly My Pretties and Rian, and who are extremely successful, who, after they've paid their royalties, it provides money for us to invest into this merry-go-round of younger acts. And I can't help but be hugely passionate about Milu, Bailey Wiley, and Yokozuna. In fact, I'm guest hosting Bandcamp Weekly this week.
And you mean you host it like video or?
No, it's Bandcamp. Do you go to Bandcamp, mate?
I do go to Bandcamp a lot, but I don't know what that event is.
No, Bandcamp Weekly is the weekly podcast they do.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's awesome. So I do that with Bailey Wiley.
That's what I was meaning. Is it audio or video? Or?
Oh, it's audio, and it's just tracks. Yeah, and just hopefully exposing that scene that I'm passionate about again to a wider audience. You know, dropping in, because it's not just about Luke Bandcamp Weekly. He wanted a bit of a showcase on New Zealand music, so dropping in some new Shane P. Carter, which I think is awesome. Obviously some Freddy's and Lawrence Arabia and other stuff that's not on Loop, to just showcase hopefully New Zealand music to a wider audience. Can we play a song?
If you give it to me, that probably means I can license it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we can play any Wham or Ice-T, but if it's something of yours...
Okay. Awesome.
she